Hejin stood at the entrance of the Galactic Military Academy, her small bag clutched tightly against her chest. The massive steel doors towered above her, reflecting the light of 3 distant suns. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. This was the moment she had trained for her entire life, even if no one else knew it. "Next student, please step forward for processing," a robotic voice called out. Hejin walked to the scanner, keeping her eyes down as several alien students whispered and pointed at her. She was the smallest person in line, probably the smallest in the entire academy. The scanner hummed as it moved over her body. Species: human. Planet of origin: Earth. Name: Hejin. Status: accepted. The machine paused. Warning: physical parameters below recommended guidelines for combat training. Someone laughed behind her. "They're letting children in now," a deep voice mocked. Hejin didn't turn around. She knew exactly who it was. Taho, the top-ranked senior student she had researched before coming here. His words caused more laughter to spread through the line. The processing droid looked confused, its lights blinking rapidly. Despite irregular parameters, candidates' test scores qualify for admission. Proceed to orientation hall. Hejin walked through the corridors, her soft footsteps barely making a sound on the metal floor. Around her, students from 100 different worlds towered over her. Some had scales, others had multiple arms, and a few even floated instead of walking. But all of them shared one thing: they were all staring at her. In the orientation hall, she found an empty seat in the back corner. As she sat down, the student next to her quickly moved away. Hejin allowed herself a tiny smile. Everything was going exactly as planned. "Is this seat taken?" a quiet voice asked. Hejin looked up to see another student, Jaeyun, also from Earth but from a different region. She was taller than Hejin, but still small compared to the others. "No, please sit," Hejin said softly. As Jaeyun settled beside her, the hall lights dimmed. A hologram appeared at the front, showing Commander Du-1, the Academy's leader. His stern face filled the room as he began the welcome speech. "You are here because you represent the best warriors from your worlds. The galaxy faces new threats every day. Here, you will learn to fight them." Hejin listened carefully, but her attention was drawn to movement in her peripheral vision. Taho and his friends were mimicking her small size, making exaggerated childlike gestures. Several students around them tried to hide their laughter. The first class was combat training. The students gathered in a massive arena with practice weapons lined up on the walls. Their instructor, Sunmei, was demonstrating basic fighting stances. "Partner up," Sunmei ordered. The students quickly paired off, leaving Hejin alone. Even Jaeyun had been grabbed by another Earth student. Well, Taho's voice came from behind her. "Looks like I'll have to teach the baby how to fight." He stood in front of her, his muscular frame casting a shadow over her small form. "Try not to cry when you get hurt." Hejin took her position, her movements deliberately clumsy. She could feel Sunmei watching them closely. As Taho threw his first punch, Hejin stumbled backwards, barely staying on her feet. The other students laughed. "Pathetic," Taho spat. "You don't belong here." Hejin fell down again and again during practice, each time looking more hopeless than the last. By the end of class, she had become the joke of the academy. As she left the arena, she heard students taking bets on how long she would last before quitting. That night, in her private quarters, Hejin sat in perfect meditation pose. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "Let them underestimate you. Let them mock you. The galaxy's greatest weapon is not a laser or a battleship. It's being underestimated by your enemy." Hejin opened her eyes and stood up. She moved to the center of her room and took a fighting stance, her real one this time. Her movements were fluid, precise, and deadly. She threw punches at speeds that would blur most camera systems and kicked with enough force to shatter steel. After an hour of perfect practice, she returned to her meditation. Tomorrow would be another day of pretending to be weak. Another day of gathering intelligence on her classmates' fighting styles. Another day of keeping her true nature hidden. After all, her grandmother had trained her for this mission since she could walk. The galaxy's greatest warriors weren't always the ones who showed off their strength. Sometimes, they were the quiet ones in the corner, waiting for the right moment to reveal who they truly were. 2 weeks had passed at the Galactic Military Academy, and Hejin had perfectly maintained her role as the weakest student. She spent her days dropping practice weapons, tripping over her own feet, and failing at basic combat moves. But today was different. Today, something would force her to show a tiny glimpse of her true self. The class gathered in the zero-gravity training chamber, a massive room with floating obstacles and practice drones. Sunmai stood in the center, her instructor's uniform reflecting the blue safety lights. "Today's exercise is simple," Sunmai announced. "Navigate through the obstacle course while avoiding drone fire. The drones use stun beams. They won't hurt you, but they will freeze you for 10 seconds if you're hit." The Jin watched as students began their attempts. Most managed to dodge a few shots before getting stunned. Even Taeho, who usually excelled at everything, got hit 3 times before reaching the end. Next up, the human child. Taeho called out with a smirk. "This should be entertaining." Hejin stepped forward, making sure to look nervous. As she entered the starting position, she noticed Commander Duwon had entered the observation deck above. His presence was unusual for a routine training exercise. The buzzer sounded, and Hejin began moving through the course, deliberately slow and awkward. She got hit by the first drone, earning laughs from her classmates. As she recovered, she noticed something wrong with one of the obstacles ahead. A large metal panel was coming loose from its mounting. Below it, Jae-yun was making her way through the course, unaware of the danger. Hejin's eyes narrowed. The panel's support was failing fast. It would fall before anyone could sound an alarm. In that split second, Hejin made a choice. She pushed off from her position with precise force, calculating the trajectory in her head. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. "Sometimes we must show a card from our hand to save a life. Choose these moments wisely." Hejin's body moved with perfect grace through the zero-gravity. She dodged 5 drone shots without appearing to look at them, pushed off 2 obstacles with exactly the right force, and reached Jae-yun just as the panel broke free. With one arm, she pulled Jae-yun out of the way. With the other, she caught the edge of the falling panel, absorbing its momentum and redirecting it toward an empty section of the chamber. The whole sequence took less than 3 seconds. The room fell silent. Hejin quickly let go of Jae-yun and made herself stumble, pretending to be dizzy from the movement. "It was just luck," she mumbled, loud enough for others to hear. "I got scared and pushed randomly." Commander Duwon's eyes narrowed as he watched from above. He had seen enough combat to know the difference between luck and skill. Those movements had been precise, efficient, and expertly controlled. "Luck." Taeho's voice was suspicious. "Since when does luck let someone dodge 5 drone shots?" I didn't dodge them," Hejin said quickly. "I just closed my eyes and pushed away. I was terrified." Sunma stepped forward, her face unreadable. "Everyone back to the starting position. We'll run the course again." During the second attempt, Hejin made sure to get hit by almost every drone. She flailed her arms wildly and looked completely helpless. By the end of class, most students had accepted her explanation of lucky panic. That evening, Hejin sat in her room, reviewing the day's events in her mind. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called out, knowing who it would be. Jae-yun entered, closing the door quietly behind her. "I wanted to thank you for today," she said. "And I know it wasn't luck." Hejin kept her face neutral. "What do you mean?" "The way you moved," Jae-yun said softly. "For just a moment, you were like water flowing through air. My grandmother used to move like that when she practiced the old forms. He-Jin stayed silent, studying Jia-Yun's face. Don't worry, Jia-Yun continued with a small smile. Your secret is safe with me. Whatever reason you have for hiding your strength, I'm sure it's important. After Jia-Yun left, He-Jin sent a secure message to her grandmother. Someone noticed today. Had to reveal small skill to save a life. Situation contained, but watching carefully. The response came quickly. Trust your judgment. The strongest tree bends in the wind but does not break. Continue the mission. He-Jin looked out her window at the 3 moons of the Academy planet. Soon, she would need to show more of her abilities. But for now, she would continue to be the weak student everyone mocked. After all, the best place to hide is in plain sight, exactly where no one expects to find you. He-Jin sat in her room late at night, her eyes closed in meditation. As the Academy slept, her mind drifted back to her training days on Earth, to the secret valley where everything began. She was 6 years old again, standing in the hidden training grounds deep in the Korean mountains. Her grandmother, Master Sunhwa, stood before her, wearing the traditional training robes that had been passed down for generations. Watch carefully, little one, her grandmother said, moving with impossible grace. Our art is not like others. We do not just fight with our bodies. We fight with the knowledge of the stars themselves. Young He-Jin watched as her grandmother demonstrated a simple move that somehow bent the light around her hand. Long ago, when the first aliens visited Earth in secret, our ancestors learned from watching them. They created this art to protect humanity. The memory shifted to her 10th birthday. She was practicing a complex series of movements while her grandmother explained their history. The aliens thought we were primitive, Sunhwa said, correcting He-Jin's stance. They didn't realize we were studying them, learning their weaknesses. Every martial art on Earth has a piece of this knowledge, but only our family keeps the whole truth. He-Jin opened her eyes in her academy room, the memories still fresh in her mind. She stood up and moved to the center of her room, activating the privacy shields her grandmother had helped her install. These shields made any scanning devices show only a sleeping student in her bed. She began the ritual practice movements, each one designed to counter a specific alien fighting style. The first sequence was for species with enhanced strength. The second was for those with natural armor. The third was for beings that could manipulate gravity. Another memory surfaced, her 13th birthday. She was in the secret underground chamber beneath their training grounds, watching in awe as her grandmother showed her the ancient records. See these markings? Sunhwa pointed to strange symbols on the wall. Our ancestors recorded every alien species they encountered. Every strength, every weakness. She touched a particular symbol. This one shows how to defeat energy shields. This one reveals the secret of faster-than-light movement. Back in her academy room, He-Jin continued her practice. Her movements were a perfect blend of ancient human technique and advanced alien science. Each step contained calculations for quantum physics. Each hand position could disrupt energy fields. The memories came faster now. At 15, learning the truth about the academy. They will build a new school among the stars, her grandmother had said. The aliens think they are being generous, teaching lesser species. But we have waited centuries for this chance. You will go there, He-Jin. You will be our eyes and ears. Why me? Young He-Jin had asked. Because you are the best student I have ever trained, Sunhwa had replied. And because you understand the most important lesson. True strength lies in patience. In her room, He-Jin completed her practice with a move that could, if done correctly, temporarily stop time itself. Her grandmother had only demonstrated it once, warning that it should be used only in the gravest emergency. She sat down again, picking up a small communication device disguised as a simple bracelet. She typed out her daily report. Training maintained. 3 new fighting styles observed today. Identified weakness in Centaurian combat pattern. Still no sign they suspect. Her grandmother's response came quickly. Good. Remember your true mission. The Academy is not just a school. It is a gathering of the galaxy's future military leaders. If our fears are correct, we must know who will stand with Earth when the ancient enemy returns. Hejin put away the device and prepared for bed. Tomorrow she would go back to being the weak student everyone mocked. She would stumble through training exercises designed for beginners, while secretly analyzing advanced combat techniques that even the instructors didn't fully understand. As she drifted off to sleep, one final memory surfaced, her grandmother's last words before she left Earth. Remember, my Hejin, you carry the hopes of humanity with you. Our art is not just about fighting. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. When the time comes, you will know when to reveal your true strength. Until then, be the pebble that no one notices, but contains a universe within. The training ship moved slowly through space, carrying 30 students from the Academy. It was supposed to be a simple exercise. Fly to the nearby moon, practice landing procedures, and return. Hejin sat quietly in the back, watching as Taeho bragged about his pilot skills to everyone. "This is boring," Taeho complained. "We should be learning real combat, not basic flight patterns." Instructor Sunbai stood at the front of the ship. "Basic skills keep you alive. Now, everyone check your safety." She stopped suddenly, looking at the radar screen. Her face turned serious. "Multiple ships approaching. They're not Academy vessels." The radar showed 5 ships moving toward them fast. They were painted black to blend with space, and their shapes were rough and aggressive. "Pirates. Everyone stay calm," Sun Mai ordered, but Hejin could hear worry in her voice. The training ship had only light weapons. It wasn't built for real combat. The first pirate attack hit them hard. The ship shook, and warning lights flashed everywhere. Students screamed as they were thrown from their seats. Hejin held on, her mind racing through options. "Our shields are failing," Sun Mai announced. "Main engines damage. Emergency call sent to the Academy, but help will take 20 minutes to arrive." Another hit rocked the ship. Hejin watched as cracks appeared in the hull near the front. She knew they wouldn't last 5 minutes, let alone 20. "We have to fight back," Taeho shouted, trying to sound brave. But Hejin could see his hands shaking as he tried to work the weapon controls. The pirates sent a message. "Surrender now. We'll sell you all for a good price in the outer systems." Hejin stood up quietly. She had noticed something about the pirate ships. Their design was similar to one her grandmother had shown her in the ancient records. She knew their weakness. "Instructor," she said softly, "please let me help with the weapons." "Sit down," Taeho snapped. "This isn't time for games, little girl." But Sun Mai saw something in Hejin's eyes. "Let her try," she ordered. Hejin moved to the weapons station. Her fingers flew over the controls, making adjustments that seemed strange to everyone watching. She wasn't aiming at the pirate ships. Instead, she was targeting specific points in space near them. "What are you doing?" Jaehyun asked from nearby. "You'll miss them completely." Hejin didn't answer. She fired 6 quick shots. The energy beams seemed to go wide, missing the pirate ships by a large distance. Taeho started to laugh. Then something amazing happened. The energy beams hit invisible points in space, points where the pirates' shield generators connected to their main power systems. It was a weakness in their design that hadn't been fixed in over 300 years. 2 pirate ships lost power immediately. A third spun out of control as its shields failed. The remaining 2 tried to run away, but Hejin's next shots disabled their engines. The entire student ship fell silent. Everyone stared at Hejin, who quickly made herself look confused. I just got lucky," she stammered. "I read something about old ships in a book once. I didn't think it would work." Before anyone could question her further, Academy rescue ships arrived. They captured the disabled pirate vessels and saved the training ship. During all the excitement, most people forgot about Hejin's impossible shots. But not everyone. Commander Du-won, watching the rescue from the academy, replayed the weapon logs several times. Those shots had been perfect, too perfect for luck or random reading. That night, He-Jin sent an encrypted message to her grandmother. Had to act today. Pirates using old Drachnid ship designs. Disabled them using Pattern 7. Some noticed. Should I worry? The reply came back. You chose correctly. A warrior's first duty is to protect others. But be careful. You've shown them a piece of the puzzle. They will watch more closely now. He-Jin looked out at the stars, thinking about what had happened. She had revealed some of her knowledge today, but it was worth it to save her classmates. Still, she would need to be extra careful now. The easy part of her mission was over. As she prepared for bed, she heard students in the hallway still talking about the pirate attack. Some wondered about her lucky shots. Others dismissed it as impossible. But all of them were asking the same question. How did the weakest student at the academy just defeat 5 pirate ships? 3 days after the pirate attack, Taeho couldn't stand it anymore. People were still talking about how He-Jin had saved the ship. Some students even smiled at her in the hallways now. He had to do something to put her back in her place. During lunch in the Great Hall, Taeho stood up on a table. Listen, everyone, he shouted. I challenge He-Jin to a combat demonstration. Right now. Let's see if she's really as special as some people think. The hall fell silent. Hundreds of students turned to look at He-Jin, who sat quietly eating her lunch with Jae-yun. Unless you're scared, Taeho added with a smirk. He-Jin slowly put down her spoon. She had known this was coming. Her grandmother had warned her that pride would eventually force Taeho to act. Now she had to decide how much to show. I accept, she said softly. The training arena filled quickly. Everyone wanted to watch. Even some teachers came to observe. Commander Do-won stood in his private viewing box, his eyes fixed on He-Jin. Standard practice weapons only, Instructor Sunmi announced. She looked worried. First to 3 hits wins. He-Jin stood at one end of the arena, wearing the basic training uniform. She looked small and nervous, just as everyone expected. Taeho stood at the other end, showing off with his practice sword. Begin, Sunmi called out. Taeho charged forward, swinging his sword in a perfect arc. He-Jin stepped back clumsily, barely avoiding the hit. The crowd laughed. This was exactly what they had expected. Stop dancing and fight. Taeho growled. He pressed his attack, driving He-Jin toward the arena wall. He-Jin stumbled again, but something caught Commander Do-won's attention. Her stumbles always put her in exactly the right position to avoid Taeho's next attack. It looked like luck, but suddenly, Taeho reached behind his back and pulled out a second weapon, an energy stick. These were forbidden in practice matches because they could cause real pain. The crowd gasped. Let's see how lucky you are now, he snarled, swinging both weapons. He-Jin's eyes narrowed slightly. She could smell ozone from the energy stick. It was set to maximum power. A hit from that could put her in the medical bay for a week. Time seemed to slow down. She heard her grandmother's voice. Sometimes, to protect your secret, you must reveal another secret. He-Jin moved. Not at her full speed. That would have been too much. But faster than anyone expected. She flowed around Taeho's wild attacks like water around rocks. Stand still, Taeho shouted, getting angry. His attacks became stronger but messier. He-Jin waited for the perfect moment. When Taeho swung both weapons in a cross pattern, she saw her chance. With 3 quick steps, she moved inside his guard. Her hand touched his chest so softly that it looked like an accident. Taeho froze. Then his legs gave out, and he fell to his knees. Both weapons dropped from his numb fingers. Pressure point. He-Jin explained loudly enough for everyone to hear. My grandmother taught me for self-defense. It will wear off in a few minutes. The arena was completely silent. What they had just seen was impossible. Nobody could move that fast. Nobody could take down the academy's top student with a single touch. Instructor Sunme stepped forward. The match is over. He-Jin wins by default due to illegal weapons. As medical staff helped Tae-ho out of the arena, He-Jin felt everyone's eyes on her. She had shown them a small taste of her skills, but disguised it as simple self-defense. Would they believe it? Commander Do-won leaned forward in his viewing box. "Interesting," he murmured. "Very interesting." That evening, He-Jin sent her report. Had to demonstrate basic evasion and single nerve strike. Explained as grandmother's self-defense teaching. Situation contained. The response was quick. Well handled. You showed them a pebble to hide the mountain. But be warned, the truly smart ones will start asking questions now. He-Jin looked at her reflection in the window. The scared little girl everyone saw was beginning to crack. Soon, she would have to show more. But for now, she had given them just enough to wonder about, while keeping her true abilities hidden. In his room, Tae-ho finally regained feeling in his body. His hand shook as he remembered how easily she had defeated him. For the first time in his life, he felt real fear. What else was that little human girl hiding? 1 week after the match with Tae-ho, alarms screamed through the academy. He-Jin woke up instantly, her body tense. These weren't practice alarms. They had a different sound, one she had memorized from her training. All students report to emergency stations. Commander Do-won's voice boomed through the speakers. This is not a drill. Repeat. This is not a drill. He-Jin quickly put on her uniform and rushed into the hallway. Other students ran past her, many looking scared. Through the huge windows, she could see strange ships appearing in the sky. Their design made her blood run cold. "No," she whispered. "Not yet. They're too early." The ships were black and purple, shaped like giant arrowheads. Green energy crackled around them as they descended toward the academy. He-Jin recognized them from her grandmother's oldest scrolls. The Shadowborn, an ancient race that had nearly destroyed Earth centuries ago. In the main defense room, Commander Do-won was giving orders. Activate all shields. Power up the defense guns. He-Jin joined the other students at their assigned stations. Jae-yun worked next to her, hands shaking as she tried to operate her console. The first attack hit the academy's shields like a hammer. The entire building shook. Students screamed as equipment sparked and exploded around them. Shields failing. Someone shouted, "Our weapons aren't doing any damage." He-Jin watched the sensor readings carefully. The Shadowborn ships were using the same technology they had used centuries ago. Their shields absorbed energy from normal weapons and grew stronger. Tae-ho worked at the main weapon controls, firing everything they had. The powerful Academy weapons, which could normally destroy small moons, just bounced off the alien ships. "This is impossible," Tae-ho shouted in frustration. "Nothing works against them." Another hit rocked the Academy. Half the lights went out. Through the windows, He-Jin could see more Shadowborn ships appearing. Soon, there would be too many to count. Commander Do-won's voice was tense but calm. Evacuation orders received from Central Command. All students proceed to escape pods. "No," He-Jin said quietly. "If we run, they'll follow us. They'll never stop following us." She knew what the Shadowborn wanted. They had come to finish what they had started centuries ago, the complete destruction of all other intelligent life. They saw themselves as the only species worthy of existing. He-Jin looked at her hands. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "When the time comes, you'll know. The signs will be clear." Another explosion shook the room. More equipment failed. The Academy's mighty defenses were falling apart. "Please," Jae-yun begged beside her. "We have to run." He-Jin stood up straight. Everything she had trained for, everything she had hidden, had been for this moment. But she had hoped to have more time, to be better prepared. Through the chaos, she saw Commander Do-won watching her. His eyes were sharp and knowing. Had he guessed what she was? Did he understand what was about to happen? All students evacuate now. Sun Mai ordered from across the room. This is nada. The instructor's words were cut off as a massive explosion tore through the academy's outer wall. Through the hole, Ho Jin could see shadow-born soldiers starting to enter. They wore black armor that seemed to drink in light, and their helmets had no faces, just smooth, dark surfaces that reflected their victims' terrified expressions. Some students ran, others froze in fear. Tai-Ho tried to fight with his practice weapons, but the aliens walked through his attacks like they were nothing. He-Jin took a deep breath. She removed the small bracelet that helped hide her true energy signature. She unpinned her academy badge, the one that marked her as the lowest-ranked student. "Jai-Yun," she said calmly, "get everyone back. As far back as you can." "What are you going to do?" Jai-Yun asked. He-Jin smiled slightly. "I'm going to show them why Earth is still free after all these centuries." She stepped forward, toward the invading aliens. Her body began to glow with a faint blue light, the same kind of energy her grandmother had shown her in their first training session. The time for hiding was over. The real fight was about to begin. The first Shadowborn warrior stepped through the broken wall, its black armor gleaming. It stood 3 times taller than He-Jin. Behind her, she heard students gasp in fear. But He-Jin wasn't afraid. For the first time since coming to the academy, she stood at her full height, her shoulders straight, her eyes sharp and focused. "Last warning," the Shadowborn's voice boomed through its helmet. "Surrender or die." He-Jin's response was simple. She took off her academy jacket and moved into a fighting stance that no one at the academy had ever seen before. Her body began to glow brighter with blue energy. The Shadowborn raised its weapon, but He-Jin was already moving. She crossed the distance between them in the blink of an eye. Her hand struck the alien's armor at exactly the right spot, a weakness that had been discovered centuries ago by her ancestors. The black armor cracked. The Shadowborn stumbled backward, surprised for the first time in centuries. "Impossible," it growled. "No primitive species can harm our armor." More Shadowborn poured through the wall. They fired their weapons, but He-Jin moved like water between the energy blasts. Each step she took left glowing footprints on the floor. The air around her crackled with power. "Watch carefully," she called out to the stunned students. "Their armor has 7 weak points. Their weapons have a recharge delay of exactly 2 seconds. She demonstrated as she spoke, striking another Shadowborn warrior in quick succession. 1 hit to disable the shield, another to crack the armor, a third to stop its movement. The alien fell, its perfect armor now useless. The remaining Shadowborn spread out, trying to surround her. He-Jin smiled. She had trained for this exact situation since she could walk. Her hands moved in patterns taught by her grandmother, patterns designed to disrupt alien technology. The Shadowborn's weapons began to spark and fail. Their armor started to lose power. "She's using their own energy against them," Commander Du-Won shouted, understanding finally dawning on his face. "The ancient Earth defense techniques. They're real." He-Jin leaped high into the air, her body glowing even brighter. She spun in a complex pattern that her grandmother had called the Star's Dance. Energy cascaded from her movements, forming a web that trapped and disabled 3 more Shadowborn warriors. "How?" Tai-Ho whispered, watching in awe. "How can she do this?" Jai-Yun answered quietly. "She was never weak. She was waiting, watching, learning all of our strengths and weaknesses while hiding her own power." More Shadowborn ships appeared outside, but now He-Jin moved with her full speed and strength. She ran up walls, flipped over enemies, and struck with perfect precision. Each movement flowed into the next, like a deadly dance. When a Shadowborn tried to grab her, she used its own momentum to throw it into others. When they fired weapons, she caught the energy blasts with her bare hands and sent them back. "My grandmother sends her regards," He-Jin said to a fallen Shadowborn. "She wanted me to remind you why Earth was the only planet you failed to conquer." The fight moved through the academy halls. Students and teachers pressed against walls, watching in amazement as the girl they had mocked for months single-handedly fought back an alien invasion force. He-Jin's movements got faster and more complex. She began using techniques that seemed impossible, stepping through shadows, appearing behind enemies, moving so fast she left afterimages in the air. The ancient arts were never lost, she explained as she fought. They were hidden, preserved, passed down through generations, waiting for the day you returned. The last Shadowborn warrior faced her in the main hall. It was bigger than the others, its armor more complex. "You are just one warrior," it said. "You cannot stop our entire fleet." He-Jin's eyes glowed bright blue. "I am not just one warrior. I carry the knowledge and power of every defender who came before me. And I am done hiding." Energy exploded from her body in waves of blue light. The academy windows shattered. The very air seemed to bend around her as she prepared to show her true power at last. "Now," she said softly, "let me show you why Earth's warriors are feared across the galaxy." The main hall of the academy was silent except for the sound of broken glass falling from the windows. He-Jin stood in the center, surrounded by defeated Shadowborn warriors. Blue energy still flickered around her like a gentle flame. Commander Du-Won stepped forward, his face serious but calm. "I think," he said slowly, "it's time we learned the truth." He-Jin nodded. "Yes, the time for secrets is over." Above them, through the broken windows, they could see the Shadowborn fleet starting to retreat. He-Jin's display of power had shocked them. They hadn't expected to find an ancient warrior here. "I've known about Earth's secret defenders since I was young," Commander Du-Won explained to the stunned students and teachers. "My grandfather told me stories, but I thought they were just legends." "They weren't legends," He-Jin said. She touched her bracelet, and a hologram appeared. It showed hundreds of warriors through history, all practicing the same art she had just demonstrated. "For centuries," she continued, "certain families on Earth have kept the old knowledge alive. We learned from the first alien visitors. We studied their technology, their fighting styles, their weaknesses. We turned their own powers against them." Taiho stepped forward. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by genuine curiosity. "But why pretend to be weak? Why hide?" He-Jin smiled. "Because the Shadowborn have spies everywhere. If they had known Earth still had warriors who could fight them, they would have attacked sooner, before we were ready." "That's why you came to the academy," Jian said, understanding dawning on her face. "To learn about all the different species and their fighting styles." "Yes," He-Jin agreed. "Every time you practiced combat, I was studying, learning, adding your techniques to our ancient art." Commander Du-Won touched a screen on his wrist, bringing up old records. "Your entrance scores. They weren't really that low, were they?" "No," He-Jin admitted. "I answered questions wrong on purpose. I dropped weapons deliberately. Everything was designed to make me look harmless." The commander nodded. "A perfect disguise. The students mocked you, the teachers ignored you, and all the while you were the most dangerous warrior in the academy." More holograms appeared from He-Jin's bracelet, showing Earth's first contact with the Shadowborn centuries ago. It showed how normal weapons had failed against them, just like today. "But then," He-Jin explained, "our ancestors discovered something important. The Shadowborn's technology had a weakness. It couldn't handle certain types of energy manipulation. Energy created by living beings, shaped by precise movements and focused thoughts." She demonstrated, making blue energy flow between her hands. "We learned to match our body's energy to their technology's frequency. When we do that, their shields don't just fail, they collapse completely." "And you've been practicing this art your whole life?" Sunmei asked, looking at He-Jin with new respect. "Since I could walk," He-Jin confirmed. "My grandmother started my training early. She knew the Shadowborn would return someday." Commander Du-Won's face became serious. "There's more, isn't there?" This isn't just about fighting the Shadowborn. He-Jin nodded. Earth needs allies, friends among the stars. My mission was to find out which species would stand with us when the real war begins. Real war? Several students asked at once. The Shadowborn we fought today were just scouts. He-Jin explained. Their main fleet is still coming. That's why we needed this academy, to bring together warriors from all worlds, to learn from each other, to prepare. She looked around at her fellow students, seeing them differently now. Not as people who had mocked her, but as future allies in a greater fight. My weakness was a test, she said softly. Those who were kind to me even when I seemed useless. They showed the true strength of their character. Those are the allies Earth needs. Commander Do-One straightened his uniform. Then we have work to do. The Shadowborn will return, and next time, they'll be ready for you. He-Jin smiled, and this time it was the smile of a warrior. Good, because now they'll face not just me, but all of us, together. Around her, students and teachers nodded. The truth had changed everything. The girl they had ridiculed was actually their greatest teacher, and the real lessons were just beginning. 1 month after the Shadowborn attack, the academy looked very different. Workers had fixed the broken windows and walls, but the biggest changes were in the people themselves. He-Jin stood at the front of the training hall, watching as students from 20 different worlds practiced the basic movements she had taught them. Her grandmother's words now hung on the wall in glowing letters. True strength lies in unity. Back straight, Taeho, she called out. The energy needs to flow smoothly. Taeho nodded and corrected his stance. He had become one of her most dedicated students. His old pride was gone, replaced by real determination to learn. Better, He-Jin said with a smile. Remember, this isn't just about fighting. It's about understanding energy itself. Commander Do-One watched from his usual spot by the door. The Academy's entire training program had changed. Now they combined the ancient Earth techniques with modern technology and the fighting styles of other worlds. Message from Earth Command, Jae-Yun said, running into the room. She handed He-Jin a datapad. He-Jin read the message, her face becoming serious. The long-range sensors have detected something. A massive fleet gathering at the edge of known space. The Shadowborn. Several students asked at once. Yes, He-Jin confirmed. But this time, we're ready for them. She walked to the center of the training hall. With a wave of her hand, she activated the new hologram system. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of dots representing different worlds. Look, she said, every dot is a planet that has joined our alliance. Every world that learned the truth about Earth's warriors has pledged to stand with us. The students gathered around the map. Many pointed to their home worlds, now marked as ally planets. We are stronger together, He-Jin continued. Each species brings unique abilities. The Centaurian's strength, the Proximan's speed, the Vegan's technology. Combined with Earth's ancient arts, we are unbeatable. Sunma stepped forward. Show them, He-Jin. Show them what unity looks like. He-Jin nodded. She moved to the practice area and took her stance. Around her, students from different worlds did the same. They had practiced this many times. As one, they began to move. Each student's natural energy combined with the others. Blue light from He-Jin mixed with green energy from the Centaurians, purple waves from the Proximans, and golden streams from the Vegans. The energy grew stronger and stronger, filling the room with beautiful colors. This was what the Shadowborn feared most, not just Earth's ancient power, but that power shared and multiplied by unity with other worlds. This is why I came here, He-Jin explained as they finished the demonstration. Not just to spy or to hide, but to prove that all our species could work together, could learn from each other. Commander Do-One's communication device beeped. He read the message and smiled. The first combined fleet is ready. Ships from 50 worlds, all trained in the new combined fighting techniques. And this is just the beginning, He-Jin said. She touched her bracelet, sending a message to her grandmother. Mission accomplished. The alliance is real. We are ready. The response came quickly. Well done, my He-Jin. Your grandmother is proud. But remember, this is not the end. It is a new beginning. He-Jin looked at her students. No, her friends now. Each one had learned to respect not just her, but each other. The girl they had once ridiculed had become their teacher, their leader, their inspiration. The Shadowborn think they know what's coming, she said. They expect to face the same old enemies they've always fought. Instead, they'll find something new. A galaxy united, strong with ancient power and modern knowledge combined. She smiled as she watched her students practice. Some still made mistakes, but they helped each other improve. No one ridiculed anyone anymore. They had learned the most important lesson. True strength comes in many forms. Tomorrow, she announced, we begin advanced training. The Shadowborn are coming, yes, but when they arrive, they won't find weakness. They'll find the strongest force the galaxy has ever seen. All of us, standing together. The students cheered. Above them, through the huge academy windows, 3 suns set in a beautiful display of light. But the brightest light came from within the training hall, where the future defenders of the galaxy prepared for their greatest challenge. The girl they had ridiculed had not just become a warrior. She had become a legend who changed the galaxy forever.